What is going on in Why can't I talk? What is going on, everybody? I hope you're all doing well. My name is Andy with Bulwarks today, and let's get this project wrapped up. So picking up where I left off in the last video, I had just finished laying up all the glass on here, and then before I left for the day, I coated everything with some gel coat, which is the blue stuff that you're seeing here. Now, that seems to be kind of the common question that I get quite frequently is why is it that I cover my glass with gel coat after I'm done laying it up? And well, I do that for a couple of reasons. Main reason is because I always use laminating resin for my glasswork. I need to put something over top of that to to seal the air off of away from the resin so that the glass and the resin itself can fully cure. But the other reason I do it is because the gel coat is a little bit thicker and it helps to fill in the texture of the glass, which means that when I'm sanding, like right here, it takes less sanding to get a smooth surface. Now, coating the surface with gel coat isn't the only way that I can cure this glass. There's actually a number of ways that you can do it. I could either mix in some wax additive with my final coat of resin that I use for laying up the glass, or I could actually use something what's called PVA, that's polyvinyl alcohol. However, when you're looking at the surface here, you can still see that there's a little bit of gel coat stuck back, in the texture of the glass. If I had used either a PVA or a resin with a wax additive, that material would still be kind of tucked in on the kind of in the nooks and crannies of the glass, which would mean you'd have to do more sanding to completely remove it. So the gel coat, at least for the way that my workflow, it just seems to work really, really well. And well, it also doesn't hurt that I've always got a bunch of extra gel coat sitting around the shop that actually just needs to get used up. So it's kind of, doing it this way is just kind of a win-win. It helps me to eliminate some clutter around the shop as well. So with round one of the sanding fun out of the way, now it's time to start trying to figure out how to get this transom flat. And to do that, all I'm doing is I'm taking a straight edge and I'm laying it, I'll start off initially vertically and then I'll go horizontally, but I'm taking the straight edge and laying it down, and then I'm marking where the tops and the bottoms of the low spots are on here, so that when I'm coming in and I'm laying my epoxy, it'll help to give me some sort of a reference as far as what areas I need to start building up first. In the material I'm mixing up here, it's their West System epoxy mixed with their 410 filler, and then I always throw in just a little bit, well, maybe not just a little bit, actually about 25% of their 406 silica. And the reason that I do that is that 410 by itself, especially when you're working on a vertical surface, I don't care how thick you mix that stuff, 410 just has a tendency to kind of slowly sag and just kind of run away on you. So when you add in the 406, that just kind of helps tighten up the batch and just kind of keep it, where you want it, wherever you lay it. I don't say that you never get any sags, but it really, really minimizes that. And I don't know how well the camera is actually able to pick this up, but the first few, I guess, passes I made were right along that bottom edge, and that's where the majority of the low spots were. So the epoxy I laid up there was applied about twice as thick as what I laid up across the top, and what I'm laying across the top is more or less just to fill in any more little pits and imperfections, and just trying to get a little bit of a build. Not much, but just an extra little bit of a build. So now it's the following day, and it doesn't matter how careful you are when you're trying to trowel this epoxy out. There's always going to be little high peaks and points, from the edge of the trowel when you're laying this out. So here, whenever I do this, I always go around the perimeter of the whatever it is I'm sanding. I go around the perimeter first, just to knock down any high points, because then in the next step, when I actually come in with my straight edge, I want that straight edge to actually be laying flat and not be held up at all by any little peaks or runoffs from when I was troweling all this out. And right now, surprisingly, this is already looking pretty good. I mean, it's still a little bit low, kind of right across the middle there. So when I'm doing my sanding in the next, I'm not going to be too aggressive with the sanding here in the middle. I'm just basically going to come through enough just to scuff it up so that I get a good bond when I start to lay up the next coat of epoxy. Now, whenever I get low spots like this, it always brings a lot of really, really colorful words to mind, but what's usually running through my head is that little sound clip from Yosemite Sam on the old Bugs Bunny cartoons. Remember those? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I had to add that in there. All right, now before I get started on this next round of fairing, there's a couple things that I want to kind of zoom in on and show you here real quick. Okay, this first one is I've got a straight edge. Well, at least this bottom edge is straight. I've flattened it out on the joiner, but I'm putting a straight edge across the top of this transom. It's good from about here all the way down, you know, so all that is fine. But there is, focus, there is a little bit of a gap on this side for about, I don't know, maybe 16 inches in length. And it's low by maybe, come on, by a little, about 1/8 of an inch, a little bit more, give or take. And the other thing that I want to zoom in on is kind of a persistent problem that I've been having, that I've always had with the fairing compound that I just used. Now, as you know, I'm historically or traditionally have been a very big fan of West System epoxy, and it's a great product, it's a great company, and it always works. You know, it's just, I've always gone to that. I've always used that as my go-to because I know that I was never going to have any kind of hiccups or anything backfire on me. But one persistent problem that I've always had whenever I use their 410 filler is that after you sand it down, it always leaves little pinholes, and that's just frustrating because epoxy is not a quick set compound, so it's not like something that you can lay up and then start sanding it again here in an hour. Basically, if you've got to come back and do touch-ups, you lay it up, you're hands off of that aspect of the project for the rest of the day, which can very quickly, when you're trying to chase down pinholes, can very, very quickly add on a lot of calendar time to a project. And that's something I'm really, really trying to avoid with this right now. So let's see, let me back up. When did I first start using this? It was almost a year ago. I got a hold of Jamestown Distributors, and they sent me some of their fairing compound. I believe it's called their Total Fair, and I used it on on the sailboat when I was replacing the deck. I'll put a little link, you know, up in here if you're interested in seeing how a teak deck is replaced and installed and that kind of thing. But that was the first time I had used it, and very, very impressed with it. It worked consistently. It sanded like a dream, and most importantly, it did not leave any pores behind. I don't know how they package it, if they vacuum seal it, or you know, if they put it under vacuum to pull all the air out before they package it and ship it out. But whatever it is that they do, it doesn't give you any pinholes. So since then, I've switched over to the Total Fair. For if I have enough of it on hand, I'll do all of my fairing with that product. And if I'm running short on it, then at the very least I'll use it for my final fairing after I've gone through and done the bulk of the shaping and the fairing on with a different product. Now, I think when it comes to fairing, I think I may just completely walk away from West System altogether as far as the fairing goes, and stick with the Total Fair, just because it's a time saver, to be honest. You know, if I can come back and get my fairing done, sand it, and know that I'm not going to have to do 2, 3, or 4 touch-ups chasing down pinholes, that's 2, 3, 4 days less on a project that it's that much faster that I can get the project finished and turned around. So if I have enough of that product, I think that's going to be my go-to fairing compound from now on. But right now, I still have a lot of West System on hand, and about a 20-pound box of the 410 filler. So that's what I've got. So that's what I'm going to be using for the bulk of the fairing, and then for the final fairing to make it perfect, then I'm going to be using the Total Fair. Let's see if we can zoom in and show you this here. I may need to give the camera something to focus on, but I don't know if you can see this or not, but all these are all the pinholes. And this is just one tiny little area of on this project. If you're working a large area and you've got to deal with all these pinholes, holy crap, you're talking about serious added time. So let me get some of this total fair mixed up and then get this slathered on. I want to get the top of this transom built up, get the rest of this of these edges and this little detail in here, get that shaped, and then pinholes in here and the pinholes back in here. So let me get that mixed up and get to it. So here's the very, very last round of fairing. And for the most part, I mean, honestly, everything is already good. It's flat in all the directions. But, you know, just as a little bit of an insurance policy, I want to go through and give most of the transom another skim coat of thickened epoxy. And this is more so just going to be to make sure that I don't have any pinholes come time to paint. That, and also, every time I've sanded this transom down, I've always been using, I think it was either 60 or 80 grit. And that's 2 courses of a sandpaper if you're going to be getting ready for shooting the primer, which is what I'm going to be doing next. So I'm going to lay up a skim coat of epoxy on here, and then I'm going to sand everything down lightly with some I believe it's 150 grit. And then at that point, everything should be set and ready to go for priming and then finally painting, and then finish this project off. All right, so regarding this fairing process, there's 2 things I want to touch on here because I am almost certain that are going to come up in the comments here after this video is published. And I'm sure the main question is going to be why am I not using a longboard for sanding and flattening and fairing in this transom? And honestly, there's 2 reasons. The first one is, well, yes, you could absolutely use a longboard for that. I mean, that would work perfectly fine. Now, that said, that's something you could do. That's not something my shoulders can do, at least not right now. That's something I need to try and get sorted out over this winter. But the other reason that I guess I'm able to do it this way, at least in this instance, is because this is a dead flat surface. Now, using a straight edge, and as long as you're being very, very careful and meticulous about how you're sanding, you can get absolutely great results doing the sanding the way that I did here with a straight edge. Now, if this were of any kind of a radiused or curved surface, well, not a chance. I mean, you have to use a longboard in that instance. But on a dead flat surface like this, like I said, as long as you're careful, you can get perfectly good results. Again, as long as you take your time and you're careful. So in my next project, which is just going to be a sweetheart of a boat and just a total eye candy, type of a project, there's no way I'm going to be able to get away with doing my fairing like this. I'm going to have to get a hold of, well, actually, the company I want to get a hold of is Flexi Sander. A few months back, Moss over on Sail Life. If you haven't followed him, I know a lot of people here do. But if you're not following him, you really need to fix that. But a few months back, he posted a video when he was in the middle of fairing off his cabin top, and he was using these flexible sanders and trawlers made by Flexi Sander, and I have been drooling over those things ever since. So now that I found a distributor for them here in the United States, I'm going to have to give them a call. I mean, they can call me too, but however it happens, we need to talk. So one way or the other, we'll get this worked out. As you can see, I kind of had to fast forward a little bit on this project, but I didn't skip over anything as it pertained to this transom. I just didn't record any of the taping, well, not much of the taping off. Hello, or the hanging the plastic or the wiping down and all that other prep stuff that goes along with painting. But just to kind of fill in some of the blanks here, the paint that I used here was all grip. Well, actually, it's all craft. Which is the buffable version of all grip, but it's all craft 2000. I forget the color of the paint. It's white. it's some kind of white. But some of the other parts of this project that I had to do was, well, obviously I had to tape or spray on this stripe, across the side. This is going to be this is the sheriff's boat, so it needs to have the department colors. But I also had to replace almost 3/4 of that foredeck, as well as the very top of the cabin. Had to recore all that and glass all that in. And then, obviously, after I repainted, I had to lay all the non-skid. Now, again, the non-skid that I'm using here, which is something I've been using for the last couple of years, it's soft sand. And I wanted to give a shout out to Van McComb over at Soft Sand Rubber. I mean, he's, thanks for helping me out on this project as well as countless others. He's been great to work with. Again, if you're ever in a situation where you're redoing the non-skid on your boat, highly recommend you give them a call. And on that note, this project is officially wrapped up. Now, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give a thumbs up and all that other stuff that everybody else says at the end of the videos. Questions, comments, you can leave those down below, and I will do my best to get back to you, at least certainly within the first hour. So, yeah, I guess that's the end of this one. Now, I will be seeing everybody here again next week. Yes, I did say next week. If you have not heard, starting then, I am officially going to be doing video full-time. So be putting out weekly content along with a few other things. And just as a little bit of a teaser, see this little sweetheart right behind me here? That is going to be this winter's project. So I'll fill everybody in with more detail here as time allows, certainly within, well, that'll probably be next week's video now that I think about it. So until then, have a great weekend. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.